What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to talk to you about Han Solo, Imperial Cadet. This is a 5-issue miniseries, and in this book is also a couple of really short chapters featuring Beckett and his crew before they met Han Solo. And this is by Robbie Thompson, Jerry Duggan, Leonard Kirk, Edgar Salazar, Mark Lamming, Will Sliney, and Arif Prianto, and Jordan Boyd. This is set in between scenes in Solo, a Star Wars story. Right after Han Solo escapes Corellia, and right before he meets Beckett on that one world where he's imprisoned with Chewie. This is Han at the Imperial Academy. And a lot of people really hated the Solo, a Star Wars movie because it shows everything about Han before A New Hope, and it shows how he got to that point. And you might say, well, obviously that's what a prequel does. It takes a character and it shows how they got to that moment where they're at in the non-prequel story. And yes, that is what prequels do, but I think a lot of people were really disappointed that we got to see everything in such a short amount of time of Han's life. We get to see him win the Millennium Falcon. We get to see him meet Chewie for the first time. We get to see him get his famous gun that he has in A New Hope. There's all this stuff where Han Solo's life is solidified in that movie, and you would expect all of that to take place over a longer period of time. And a lot of people really hated the movie for that. And I feel like this book kind of does the opposite, where it is taking one very small, specific moment of his life and it's stretching it out into what I am calling a non-story. I was about halfway through this book and I was asking myself, why am I reading this? What is the point of this story? This reminds me, before Disney bought Star Wars, there was a lot of what is now called the Legends canon, stuff out there that I feel like didn't really have any purpose. I remember there was a series, I think it was called Star Wars Legends, and it was an anthology series. Each issue would have like 5 short stories in it, and sometimes I would really enjoy a story. Sometimes they could be really funny, sometimes they could be really heartwarming or really tragic. There was just a wide variety of stuff that you could see. I remember one of them showed the first Sith, and it was explaining why there's a rule of 2 with the Sith, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And then you got to see, there was one story I remember where Leia decided she was not going to train to be a Jedi after the events of Return of the Jedi. But a lot of times I would read a story and I would be thinking, why is this here other than Star Wars fans will read it and therefore it will make money? But a lot of times I would look at these things and I would say, this character, nobody cares about this character. This character is a non-character. And Han Solo is actually a really important character. But this book, I don't feel like does anything for his character. And I should say, if you're thinking of saying, well, why did you read it if you didn't think it was going to be any good? Any story can be made to work. I didn't think that I would like a story about Captain Phasma, and I was pleasantly surprised by the Kelly Thompson Captain Phasma miniseries. So this could have blown me away. But I feel like we already know that Han Solo is going to wash out of the Flying Academy with the Empire. He tells us that in Solo, a Star Wars story. And even if you haven't seen that movie, you've probably seen the original trilogy, or you've seen Force Awakens before you read this comic, so you know where his life is heading. And so I feel like I'm just watching my clock, waiting for him to wash out of the Imperial Academy, and so we can get him to the next point where he's at in Solo, a Star Wars story. I really didn't know what the point of the story was. Like I said, I was 3 issues in and I kept asking myself, what is supposed to be happening here? And we do get to see Han form relationships with some of his fellow cadets, and I feel like those characters grow and change more in this story than Han does. There is one character, Kanina is her name, and this is her right here on the far side of the book, and she doesn't really like Han at the beginning of the story, but he kind of grows on her a little bit, and we find out she has someone that she wants to get back to, just like Han wants to get back to Daenerys Targaryen on Corellia. And at the end of the story, they go, against orders, they go and rescue one of their other fellow cadets who got left behind, and then they find out the Empire is going to be enslaving this group of aliens who are miners of a particular metal. And she breaks down crying because her lover, who she left behind, he is a miner of that particular metal. And so she says, when the Empire gets to that system, and we are heading in that way right now, they are going to enslave him. They're going to enslave my people. And Han gives her the chance to escape. He says, we watched you die, and so you get a way out, and then we're going to go back and we're going to cover for you. And that's really heartwarming. It's really nice because Han also wants a way out, but he gives it to her instead. But at the same time, I'm thinking Han stuck with the Empire for a little while longer because we see that he's still with the Empire in Solo: A Star Wars Story after he washes out of the Flying Academy. So he stuck with the Empire, who he knew was enslaving these innocent aliens. He found that out in this book, but then he stays with the Empire for a little while longer. We don't know how he washes out of the Flying Academy, but then he goes and joins the ground infantry. And I was thinking, like, yeah, the book thinks that this is kind of a heartwarming ending for this character Kanina, and it is for her, but it kind of makes Han a little bit sleazy because he's staying with the Empire for a little while, and maybe you could say he only is staying with him because he's looking for a way to get back to Kira. But this book shows that Han is pretty resourceful. I think he could have stolen a ship at any point. Once he found out the Empire was enslaving these aliens, he didn't have to stay with the Empire. So this is a book, I don't really think there's any reason to read it. If you're going to do expanded universe stuff outside of the movies, I would rather you do something like what The Mandalorian does. I haven't watched all of The Mandalorian, but it's creating a new character, but it's building on existing lore of the Star Wars universe, and it's creating a new story. I think that works a little better than taking a well-known character and saying, here's every single moment of their life that you didn't see in the movies. That is what people complained about with Solo: A Star Wars Story. I had fun with that movie. I don't think it's the best Star Wars movie, but I enjoyed myself with it. But I'm starting to see what people were complaining about when I read something like this, and it just feels like they have a big blank board, and then they put an X on Imperial Academy, and they say, okay, now let's show Han Solo when he's a toddler, and now let's show him when he's a preteen, and he's learning to walk, and I just don't care. I don't have to see any of that. This came across much more cynical than I meant for it to. Like I said, any story can be made to work. Like I said, I did not expect the Captain Phasma comic to be any good, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. So I thought maybe this one could have won me over as well, and unfortunately, it just didn't do that. Maybe if this had been set in between Solo: A Star Wars Story and A New Hope, we might could have seen some fun story of Chewie and Han doing something. That might could have been good. I don't know. Or maybe I would have had the same lukewarm reaction to it. So those are my thoughts on Imperial Academy or Imperial Cadet. I have no idea who this lady with the purple hair even is. She's not in the comic. This is issue 3, where they're at the casino ship, and that lady with the purple hair is not in the comic. But anyway, I will see you guys in the future with some more videos. In the meantime, have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.